everyone. I am Sarah and I will be presenting on behalf of Bhaskar and Matt as well. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about teacher professional development in Nepal, particularly around mobile and limited technology enhanced pedagogy. So I think it's important to just kind of give you some background that this was really a partnership between the University of Minnesota's College of Education and Human Development and the JRM Foundation for Humanity. And so this foundation had previously built a relationship with a school in Nepal and wanted to find a way to create a more long-term sustainable partnership. And so this gives you a brief overview of our pilot year there and some of our findings. And so the main thing that we focused on, or the main goal, was developing and implementing professional development materials over the course of a month in the summer of 2019. So just a little background about Nepal. It is a landlocked country near China and India. Its main industries are agriculture and tourism, has about 38 million people, and about 75% of them are dependent on subsistence farming. And the government is set up as a federal style republic with 7 administrative states. So what this means for the education system is that the federal government provides the framework and kind of the guidelines of what the schooling should include. And then it's up to the state and local governments to implement curriculum and standards. And so English medium instruction is very popular in schools, and particularly private schools, but they've made it so that public schools can offer English medium instruction as well. And so it's important to know, though, that the Nepali language can't be abandoned, especially if a family requests that their student learn in Nepali. So then you find these parallel K-12 education systems happening in schools where they're being taught in both English and Nepali. There are some disparities in the educational participation in Nepal, and those are really impacted by geography a lot of the time, rural or urban classification, as well as gender and indigenous groups. So that was just something we were mindful of, and also something we wanted to see if we could help support more to address some of those disparities at the school we were working with. So I won't go into too much detail about the frameworks, but really something that was guiding our observations and our experience in Nepal was really the theory of sociocultural learning, and that learning is social and it's impacted by students and teachers' cultural contexts, their histories, the politics. And so how can we use technology to help mediate some of those things? And then we were also using the technological pedagogical content knowledge framework, or TPAC, to get an idea of where teachers were in their content knowledge or subject matter, as well as pedagogical knowledge, teaching strategies, and then their technological knowledge, and how those all intersect. And that helped inform our design of the professional development, as well as seeing its impact with teachers. So our overarching question while we were there was, how, if at all, and why can technology integration support more engaged pedagogy in the context of Nepal? And so we collected a few different data sources to help inform our understanding and answer the question, as well as prepare us to design this professional development workshop. And so we spent a lot of time in the classrooms observing, as well as in the teachers' meeting rooms, talking with them. Anytime there were 3 researchers there. And so anytime one was facilitating a PD or co-teaching, the other 2 would be observing, lots of field notes. We also had some formal and informal interviews, lots of conversations with teachers, recording them at times. Sometimes they were a little more structured, and other times they were walking between classes with them. And then we also collected artifacts. So we looked at the curriculum, we had surveys during the professional development, and some charts that we collected to inform our findings. So a little bit about the school. It is located in Sudal, which is outside of Bhaktapur and Kathmandu. It's in a more rural area. It was established in 1958, and the students are mostly permanent residents and migrant children of the brick factory workers. So when the families would come in to work at the brick factories, their children would come as well. But once that season ended, a lot of times the families and their children go back to their homes. So education was often interrupted. And that was something we also wanted to look at and see how we could support them in supporting these students. And then the school was broken into 2 blocks or 2 separate buildings. And so there were 2 principals, one at each building. So we had Block A, which was the newer school. It was primarily taught in Nepali. It went from primary to higher secondary grades. The instructors were predominantly male with a lot of teaching experience and a lot of content expertise as well. In Block B, that was the older building. It went from pre-K to grade 7, and it was mostly taught in English. The instructors were predominantly female, and they had a variety of teaching experience as well as expertise in their content area. They at times didn't feel as prepared, or it was their first year teaching, or they had been trained in a different content area. So after spending some time at each of the schools, building relationships, engaging with the teachers, we developed a professional development workshop to do at each school about midway through our stay there. And so originally we had gone with hearing that technology integration was a need there and there was a lot of interest, but through our time there, we were noticing that there were some barriers to that. And so we opted to focus more on the pedagogical components and really looking at strategies to activate prior knowledge and to encourage collaboration. So during this workshop, we provided both unplugged or no technology tools like KWL charts or group roles. And then we also would share a tech tool tip that they could also use with the technology that we saw they had available at the school. And so this happened on Fridays, and then the workshop itself was very hands-on. The teachers worked in groups, they collaborated, they practiced each strategy, and then they were also able to discuss ideas of when they would use it. And then we encouraged them to let us know when they planned to so that we could come in and support them or co-teach with them. So some of the things that we found once we came back and used a more inductive approach to look through our data and code it and then organize it into themes. And so our 3 themes are here, and I'll tell you just a little bit about our findings. So we definitely noted that relationship building was a critical piece of that technology integration buy-in. It was very important that the teachers felt like we were going to be there for a while, that it wasn't just a one-off, that we got to know them in their classes. We also got to learn about their different teaching strategies and specific ideas for them to use in their classroom. And we also made sure that we were building relationships with the principals and the leaders in the school, because we noticed that if they were engaged, teachers tended to follow. We also wanted to make sure that we were prioritizing the needs. So we had to kind of abandon our assumptions about what we thought we were going into and what we thought we would focus on, and really realize that there was a lack of the resources to do the technology integration we had in mind. So how can we best meet the needs of students and teachers, and also encourage them to use the immense amounts of knowledge that students were bringing in to the classroom that maybe wasn't being tapped into? And then, of course, just the finding that there's a balancing act between pedagogy and limited technology. And so we had, through building those relationships, they shared with us what went wrong previously with technology integration. They had previously been the recipients of 1 laptop per child, but that only came with 1 training, and they didn't feel prepared to continue using that. There was also no way to charge them because the outlets didn't match the plugins, and adapters were not something that they had access to. So we really tried to make sure that any tech that we encouraged them to use, which was mostly their mobile phones, that they had access to and felt comfortable with. And then also how that can help them meet their goals of passing these exams that they would soon take.
2 minutes.
Okay, so we have just a couple implications for research and practice. And one I think is pretty common in research, and it just supports that. But really, technology and professional development are not one size fits all. It's super important to know the context. It's also important to know who the participants are. And so making sure that whatever is provided is individualized for the teachers and the students in the school in that context. Cultural understanding and context are key. And so knowing what the values of the Nepali system and society are were huge. The value of mobile technologies, we really think that this is something we hope to build on in our relationship with the school, but just seeing the comfort that the teachers had with their smartphones and thinking about ways that maybe the school or the government can support funding more data for them to use that and more ideas for how to bring that into the classroom. And then the last one is just that emphasis on relationships of making sure that there's that trust. And then that also allowed us to see the impact of the professional development by being invited into the classroom and supporting them in that. So that's all the time I have, but I've shared all of our emails as well as our Twitter account if you have any questions, and we share more details in the paper as well. I know that was very high level and fast, so thank you so much.